Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a review of the 1987 drama Wall Street. Now, before I get into my thoughts on the film, I want to give a shout out to Emmanuel Spataro. I hope I didn't butcher your last name. For requesting this film via PayPal. If that's something any of you are interested in, I have my PayPal link in the video description. I am open to pretty much reviewing whatever, and as long as it has something to do with media, it's fair game. But anyway, he sent me some money via PayPal and wanted to hear my thoughts on Wall Street. And it's a film that I had heard of before, but I had not actually gotten around to seeing until fairly recently. And I'm glad he requested it because I really liked this film. I thought this film was fantastic. There's a very famous speech in this movie by the character Gordon Gekko, played by Michael Douglas, where he talks about how greed is good. And this film is not only good, it's great. It's one of the best films I've seen that deals with Wall Street, that deals with finances, that deals with stocks and bonds, because it's still sufficiently entertaining. It's not boring, and it doesn't really get to the point where it feels like it's talking to an audience that is only made up of like experts on Wall Street. Like this is a film where even if you don't know anything about Wall Street, you can it's simplified enough in a way with its plot and with how things go on that you could still get into it. This doesn't feel like it's a film only for insiders, so to speak. Although there are some little things for insiders as well, but for the most part, it's a film that anybody can enjoy, whether they are a part of Wall Street or not. Now, the film is directed by Oliver Stone. And before this, he had done quite a few films. He did Platoon, for instance, which Charlie Sheen was also in. And this is a labor of love for Oliver because he had a family member. I think it might have been his father, who was, I think, a broker. So he wanted to do a film about Wall Street for the longest time because it was a part of his life, and he wanted to paint Wall Street for what it really is, not the idealistic view of Wall Street that is in the media or in other films. Like, for instance, Trading Spaces has this very idealistic vision of Wall Street, and he wanted to paint the more realistic picture that shows the real villains and shows that when it comes to the realm of Wall Street, there are no heroes. There are no villains. Everyone's a villain. Everyone has their flaws, and everyone is corrupt in one way or another. And that's one of the most compelling things about this movie and about this story, is that there is no one in this film that is completely clean. That I guess the closest you can get to is Martin Sheen, his character, Bud's father. But other than him, there's no one in this movie that is cookie cutter, that is black and white in terms of good and evil. And having these flawed characters is something that really makes this film endure, because of the fact that you have characters like Bud Fox who are really, really looking for their dream. So there's a lot of aspirations involved. But at the same time, he seems to be easily corruptible, and he seems to cross lines that others might not cross as easily to get what he wants, because he's getting drawn in by the devil, and honestly, what the film's real villain, which is society itself, and in particular, society's uh, obsession and outright lust for greed and money. So that's the villain in Wall Street is more thematic. It's less of a character because even Gordon Gekko, as unscrupulous and as seedy as he has some legitimate points to make in his greed is good speech about life and how greed in some forms is actually good, like greed for knowledge, greed for advancement, all of these things. So even the biggest shark of them all in a pool of sharks, even he is smarter and has something to more to offer than just his jaws and his bite. So that is something that I really feel makes this film so much stronger because it has these more realistic, blurry lines with these characters. And the overall script by Oliver Stone and Stanley Weiser, it's a very honestly, it's a pretty simple plot line. It's about the American dream. It's about Bud Fox, who goes to Wall Street. Actually, he's been in Wall Street for a while. He's a broker at some company, and he's having a hard time making it big. He wants to be with the big boys. And he's trying to catch the eye and the attention of Gordon Gekko, who is one of the biggest boys in Wall Street of them all. And as the film goes on, he actually finds a way to get into his office and convinces him to give him a little bit of his time. And he gets a taste of the American dream because Gordon Gekko takes him under his wing. And as the film goes on, Bud becomes more and more corrupt. He becomes more and more obsessed with money and the power that comes with it. Starts to lose sight of himself and his own morals. And ultimately, things turn out pretty bad for Bud. Uh, this is not a happy ending. And that's one thing I really liked about the film is that, yeah, the ending is not happy, but you know what? Even from the very beginning, I had a feeling it was going to end like that. And it ties into the realism of the movie. There is no happy endings here. Like, you know, you decide to be tempted by the devil, you're going to get punished. You're going to have to deal with that sin and with that particular choice. And when it comes to finances, if you're willing to do insider trading, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of when you get busted. And that's exactly what happens with Bud Fox at the end of the movie. He looks into the abyss. So, and there's a little bit of a sort of plot, a thread that deals with Gordon Gekko and with Bud and his father. But a lot of it is just a lot of it's just a very simple, straightforward story about Bud Fox trying to do whatever he can to get and to chase the American dream, and how it all bursts, how that particular bubble bursts, and how all these different choices that he makes contribute to that bubble bursting. Now, Oliver Stone's direction in this is absolutely amazing. I think he did a very admirable and excellent job directing this film, working with his actors, getting the most out of cramped, tight spaces. In particular, I felt that he did a really good job working with the cinematographer, Robert Richardson, in creating this very claustrophobic and honestly pretty unsettling feeling throughout most of the movie, where you always feel like there's just some things all surrounding you at all times, as if you are like in the middle of this pool of sharks and they're swimming around you. and the camera's even spinning around to simulate that, and there's all these other things that are happening with all these sounds and all this cacophony of sound effects. So overall, I think it did a great job of disorientating the viewer and putting the viewer in the shoes of Bud Fox, who is thrust into this pool of sharks in Wall Street by his own accord. And the only time when there's ever any moment where the camera kind of slows down, or when things stop spinning, or when he feels like he's no longer being cornered, is in small little scenes like in a bar, or when he's in the hospital room with his father after he's had a heart attack. So it's those sort of so it's not constantly spinning all the time, but it's doing it at a lot of moments where it's definitely something that enhances the film's overall mood and atmosphere. There's always this tension that's going on. You always feel like Bud Fox is on some high wire, and like at any moment it could snap and he could fall right into this pool of sharks. And that's deliberate. That's a deliberate choice by the director and the cinematographer. I think it also helped that Oliver Stone, I believe he knew his way around New York, so he really knew how to shoot a lot of the sequences that take place in the city, and get the most out of the location. And it's one of those films where it just looks fantastic from a cinematography perspective. It just looks great. Like, the New York has arguably never looked better than it looks in this film. And as good as the script is, which has so many just great lines of dialogue and great scenes, uh, this is a very dialogue heavy film, but unlike a lot of other dialogue heavy films, this never really feels like it's boring, because the dialogue is always interesting and always has this energy behind it, this manic energy. It's this sense of desperation on both sides. Gecko's desperation to maintain his foothold on Wall Street, and Bud Fox's desperation to remain a part of it, even if he's just hanging on by his fingernails, just to stay there, hanging off the ledge of success and money. Um, but there's always this energy behind the dialogue, and a lot of it's very poignant. A lot of it has a lot to say. Um, Even the romance angle between Bud and Darian, I liked. Daryl Hannah got a lot of flack for her performance, and I don't get it. I don't understand why she won a Razzie for this. I thought this was one of her better performances. It was nice to see her play a role like this, to play this character of Darian, who is self-centered and shady, and isn't all that she makes herself out to be. That she's uh, got her own secrets and her own skeletons in her closet, so to speak. Daryl Hannah hated playing that role, though, because it was against type, and it was against what she believed in. But I still feel that despite all of that, and despite what she said when it comes to dealing with the director, I feel that she still delivered a really great performance. I think she deserves more credit for her performance in this film than she gets, especially for dealing with Sean Young and her crazy ass, who apparently was trying to do everything she could to sabotage her and get her out of the movie so Sean Young could play the character. Thankfully, though, that didn't work, because Oliver Stone wasn't really liking Sean Young's behavior, and Charlie Sheen in particular hated her. Like, he put a note on her back that said, "I'm a CUNT," and nobody on the crew said anything. She was walking around on set with a note that says, "I'm a CUNT," and nobody said anything to her, because everyone on the set thought it was true, and there was no need to tell her about it. It's really too bad about Sean Young. You hear all these stories about her that she was just a total bitch on set. And honestly, what makes it sad is when you know the fact that she was, I think she's bipolar. So she had some mental illnesses that she was dealing with around this time when she was trying to, I guess, remain a part of Hollywood. And I don't think she really tried to do that much to fix it or better herself or let other people know what the problem was. But I think also at the same time was a damned if she does, damned if she doesn't thing, because if she openly says, you know, I'm bipolar, then she's not going to get work. So in order to get work, she has to keep this facade of she's perfectly sane and she's fine, but in reality she's not. So then everybody, when she gets a job, everybody just thinks she's a bitch, and it's just one of those things that it just spirals completely out of control. But anyway, going back to the script and the dialogue, I mean, the greed is good speech is iconic for a reason. But then there's other stuff too, just like the insults, and you know, just to hear a Wall Street guy swear and say things like, "I'm gonna suck his fucking skull," you know, stuff like that. You know, just to hear that kind of stuff is refreshing in a Wall Street environment. To hear them be as cutthroat and as ruthless as you think they are, and how a lot of them really are. Now, they're, you know, the whole dynamic in the sequence in the climax when Bud gives his gives the teacher a taste of his own lessons with the whole he sticks him with this bad stock and causes him to lose millions. That was a good exchange. There's a lot of those exchanges throughout the film in terms of the lines of dialogue, references to Sun Tzu's Art of War, uh, as well as a lot of other really nice back and forth with Gecko and Fox. And even though this screenplay is very solid, the film would not work and would not be as good as it is without the cast. I mean, Michael Douglas as Gordon Gekko, easily one of his best performances, and he definitely deserved the Oscar. He won an Oscar for this role, and I think it's inarguable that he deserved it. Like, it's something that you watch this movie, you see Michael Douglas play Gordon Gekko, and you're like, that's not only the role he was born to play, but it's also one of the best performances of the entire decade. It is that good and it is that compelling. Um, and Douglas, he wanted to do it because he was tired of playing these good characters. He was tired of playing the hero, like in Romancing the Stone. He wanted something different. He wanted to play the bad guy, and I'm really glad that they ultimately went with Michael Douglas, because initially they wanted someone else. They were gonna go with, I think it was Warren Beatty. I'm not really a big fan. The studio really wanted Warren Beatty, but he was not interested, which I'm glad. Oliver Stone, he wanted Richard Gere, but Richard Gere passed on the role, and that would have been interesting to see Richard Gere play a character like this. But at the same time, I'm glad things worked out the way that they did. Now, Stone actually, even before he was given Michael Douglas, he wanted other actors like James Woods, which that might have worked. James Woods as Gordon Gekko, I could definitely see that working. He also wanted William Peterson, which I don't know about that. William Peterson, and because he's been trying to get William Peterson for years. Like, he wanted William Peterson for Platoon, and William Peterson turned him down. So I think he was trying to get him to play Gordon Gekko, or maybe it was Bud Fox. But I know that he was trying to get William Peterson for a particular role, but Peterson declined. So essentially, I had to settle with Michael Douglas, and the studio was leery about signing him, and so was all these other people in Hollywood. Like, there were Hollywood insiders who were like, "Don't hire Michael Douglas because Michael Douglas doesn't care. he's a producer first and an actor second. He's going to spend most of his time in the trailer just, you know, looking at his notes and watching TV and doing whatever. Like he's going to be on the phone most of the time. But Oliver Stone managed to get the best possible performance out of Michael Douglas because he found a way to push him that other directors really didn't do or might have been afraid to, considering Michael Douglas's clout as a producer. He saw that Michael Douglas was not in the best of, let's just say, shape mentally and physically, because at this time he was smoking 40 packs a day. So he looked at Michael Douglas. He's like, are you sure you're an actor? Because, you don't look like one. And he looked like you're on drugs. And something that could totally backfire worked in Stone's favor, because Douglas took that, was like, got a point. Am I an actor or am I a producer or what am I doing? So he cut back on his cigarettes, and he took some lessons with breathing coaches and stuff like that, and completely focused himself into this role, and it paid off with one of the best roles, if not the best role of his career. But Michael Douglas is not the only one who is phenomenal in this cast. I mean, Charlie Sheen, in my opinion, is right up there with him. I think they're neck and neck as Bud Fox. This is also, in my opinion, arguably Charlie Sheen's best performance as an actor. Stone wanted him because he had a certain rigidity to his acting and to who he is, and he felt that Stone, hard-headedness was really perfect for this particular role. Tom Cruise apparently lobbied really hard for this role, but at this particular time, Charlie Sheen was already cast, and Tom probably would have done a good job too. But I'm glad Charlie got it, because it gave him an opportunity to flex his own acting muscles. And there are a lot of scenes in this where it's just some really just great acting by Charlie Sheen, which makes what happened with him later on with the tiger blood and all this other stuff so depressing, because you see him in this movie, you're like, man, you see glimpses of the potential of a Oscar winning just actor. You can see Charlie Sheen winning in a way that's legitimate, that's not a joke, and he just threw it all away, which sucks. It's sad. But I still wish the best for Charlie. I hope he gets sober, picks things up and has a comeback. I don't hold a lot of grudges or ill will towards people I don't know, like Charlie Sheen. I wish him the best, despite the circumstances. But it is unfortunate that, he just kind of threw things away. But anyway, really great performance. I mean, there's a lot of great scenes when the sequence when he confronts Gecko after he realizes that Blue Star is being sold. The sequence when he's in the hospital with his father, like, that is some of the best acting I've seen from Charlie, and I don't think that was acting. I think that's part of why it's such a great performance, because in the sequences when he's with his father, Martin Sheen, I don't think that's acting on Charlie's part. That's him really emoting in a way that is naturally efficient, in a way that you can't recreate. Even if you're an amazing actor, there's something about real emotion that is invaluable and incredibly not only incredibly difficult. I think it's impossible to replicate in an unnatural way. And that's definitely not what happened in that scene. And I read something that Charlie Sheen, in that particular moment, he put himself back in the particular time frame when he was in the hospital with his father, when Martin Sheen had a heart attack on the set of Apocalypse Now. So I think Charlie just put himself back in that scene and just felt those emotions again, and they were captured on screen, and it was just it's heartbreaking. Martin Sheen is also really good in that scene too, uh, and the ending when he gets arrested for insider trading, just that when he's walking down the hallway and he breaks down because he realizes what is happening. Just some really powerhouse acting right there by Charlie Sheen. Daryl Hannah, like I said, underrated performance as Darian Taylor. Martin Sheen did a good job as his father. Carl as Charlie Sheen's as Bud's father. Carl, John C. McGinley, who's a really talented character actor. He plays a co-worker of Charlie Sheen's named Marvin, and he left an impact. Uh, Terence Stamp is also in this. General Zod, he plays Sir Larry Wildman, who is a corporate raider who ultimately helps Charlie Sheen get Blue Star back from Gordon Gekko. James Cameron's also in this as I think his boss at Jackson Steinman Company. Hal Holbrook plays Lou Mannheim. Sean Young, she plays Kate Gecko, Gordon Gekko's wife. You have James Spader. Yeah, James Spader is in this as Roger Barnes, who is a friend and confidant of Bud's. That Bud uses him to do this insider trading thing, buy this other stock, do all these sort of things, cover the bases, try to cover up what Bud is doing. And yeah, just overall a really really great cast of very talented actors, young and old. The editing by Claire Simpson is taut, it's tight, it really is quite effective. I can't really think of any sequences in this movie that are an issue in terms of the overall editing. The one thing about the film I'm not really that big a fan of is Stuart Copeland's score. It's too much atmosphere. There's nothing else. It's just atmosphere and mood. It's atmosphere and mood music. But a lot of sequences it just blends into the background and fades away. So I really feel that this film would have benefited from some contemporary songs, from other artists, from the time, or a score that just really punctuates the film more, because this is just in the background. It almost it honestly has the effect of elevator music for this movie. That's really how I feel about the score. I don't think it's really anything that noteworthy. Uh, Even though it's 126 minutes, it goes by at a good enough pace because it draws you in. Because these characters are strong. Dramas need strong characters, whether it's due to a lot of character development or it's just due to the overall performances of these characters by the actors, or the fact that these characters, there's something about them that's concrete, something about them that you can connect to, that you can latch onto. And in the case of Bud Fox, he represents a lot of us who want the American dream, who want to be rich, who want to have not as much worries in the world, who want to have that penthouse, to have the beautiful hot girl, and all of that. You want Bud Fox to find a way to get out of this scot free. You thrill and you revel in the scene when he sticks and absolutely makes Gordon Gekko take all this just huge dump of money up his ass. Like you revel in that scene. It's a crowd pleasing moment. And then you also feel good when he realizes that he's lost himself and he turns his back on Gecko and does the right thing. So there's a lot of just emotions and themes that are present in this film that blend together into such a successful winning formula. And like I said, some of the things that really make you latch onto these characters is just a simple fact that you enjoy watching them and they have a good amount of things to do. The lines of dialogue that they're given are so well written that it's something that resonates on a far deeper level. They also have the moments where they can show different varying levels of emotion, and they are not stock cardboard cutout characters. Gordon Gecko is not just some strictly evil guy. He's a monster, but he's a monster created by us, by society. He's a monster created by our own love and our own greed and our own lust for money. We are the ones that are responsible for monsters like Gordon Gecko as much as money itself and society is. Because we put that wealth, we put that value on the dollar and the bottom line. And when you have people like Gordon Gecko who realize that and take advantage of that, they're monsters of our own making. And in instances like with Bud Fox, we too can become monsters. We too can have our souls corrupted and be taken over by the devil who resides in the penthouse, who resides up in the top level of the high rise. Because deep down, a lot of us just want that security. We want that. We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure. And what makes us feel the most safe and secure in our lives? Money, and the power that comes with it. And by the end of the movie, it shows how flawed that view is and how dangerous it is and how the American dream can be a fatalistic one, and how the American dream, especially the obsession, the incessant drive to strive and to reach that mountaintop can at whatever cost, can lead to people paying the ultimate price, having to walk up the steps of that courthouse and go in there and face your judgment and serve your time. So yeah, it's a film that I think is just an absolutely uh, great, just spectacular, stellar drama that I highly recommend to anyone who hasn't seen it, or even to people who haven't seen it in a while. Powerhouse performances, powerful direction, a really gripping, compelling, and genuinely thrilling plotline, despite the fact that a lot of it's just about stocks and bonds and money and Wall Street. So anyway, that's my review of Wall Street. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching. See you later.